With that, we move on to the next session titled Accelerate Growth and Business Transformation with Cloud, where Monojit Mazumdar, partner and lead cloud practice Deloitte India, will be in conversation with Kiran Kothari, sales leader, enterprise business at Fivetran, and Cariappa Monaiah, chief business officer, Knowledge Lens. Monojit, the virtual floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it has been a pleasure and wonderful opportunity to talk on this topic, a topic that seems to be growing in the list of attentions for all the CXOs, practically for all organizations. We are going to have an intriguing 20 minutes talking through the live and direct experience of our journey with our clients, our journey as a product owner in this particular space. And what I would like to do is to keep the session very grounded, a lot of practicalities and examples, as opposed to talking a bit of theory in this process. I personally have been engaged with a number of my clients in their cloud transformation journey. As with anything that comes new, this all started with a grand promise, a promise that will always be partially fulfilled because the expectation is going to be too high. Just as an example, about 4 years back, we started moving sales transformation application set for one of our consumer business client into cloud. Initial tendency was to do it exactly that way we would do it in a non-cloud environment, leveraging the same technology component, using the same processes. In about 3 months into the journey, we realized that we are using a Lamborghini, possibly in an ambassador way. No insinuation intended towards the quality of ambassador. It's a wonderful car. But to do it right, we had to do it a little differently as well. And that was our learning into the transformative bit of cloud, where we had to look at their organization to see how we can change the organization flow to make cloud a habit as opposed to the usual way of working. We had to make a significant change in the business process flow to make our client understand what are the changes that they need to bring in the way they work for cloud to work. And lastly, had to bring in a number of technology interventions and tools that were in cloud to actually make it happen in the cloud way. In that entire process, what has also happened is the platform started changing significantly. For those who have been in cloud platform since last 3 to 4 years, you would realize that we have done an astonishing number of generations between various components and tools that we have used. Practically all the platforms have not only transformed, in some cases metamorphed themselves into a newer area altogether. All of that technology enablement needed to do. And in addition to that, we were looking at some what we called crunchy problem of the business. So for consumer business, it was like how to enable the sale. Cariappa is going to talk about the manufacturing sector, and he's going to touch upon how manufacturing sector has significantly transformed or are being transformed using cloud. And all of this was actually working on enablement of one particular way of working, and that was being enabled through data. So Kiran is going to talk about how data came in and actually transformed the way we manage our operation in cloud as well. Somebody made a famous comment, and I'm not going to quote the person because this quote is attributed to multiple people at different times. They said data is the new oil. Well, I don't know how oil goes in cloud. Probably it doesn't, because it becomes a cloud burst at that point of time, but it clearly is running the cloud. With that remark, the way we'll do this is to talk for 3 to 4 minutes on our expert panelists on what their perspective on a specific way of the business transformation enabled through cloud is, for about 3 to 4 minutes each. And after that, we'll open up for your questions that I will be glad to receive and pass on to the panelists. And I also have a set of questions for my panelists whom I'm going to ask in this process. Cariappa, if I may just request you to come over and speak through your experience and point of view on this.
Yeah, thank you for that, Monojit. Yeah, pleasure. So yeah, I would touch upon the cloud adoption story and the experience what we see with respect to various manufacturing and the industry sector, right? So when we have this conversation with most of the industries, right, and they want to bring across a lot of these, innovation, transformation across their factory floor, shop floor, right? And they say, I want to bring in AI, ML, IoT, augmented reality to the way I operate on the shop floor today, right? And then we say, yeah, this is fantastic. We want to help you on that journey. And this is where a lot of these industries are doing those digital transformation projects and all of that, right? And that's where we start. And then we say, right, the first and foremost is, can I have some information or the data of your organization, how it's running today, right? The process, the machine information, who are the operators, what are they doing, and all of that, right? And when you ask that, right, for any AI or ML activity, data plays a very critical role, right? The size of the data, the duration of the data, the variety of the data plays a big role, right? And then when we talk about, right, can I have a sample of that to start our work of bringing across those what do you say, applying those algorithms, bringing across insights, recommendations, or forecasting on that, right? And that's when they say, hold on, you said that you would do the transformations, but I do not have the data kept across, right? And that is where a lot of these organizations kept data just for audit purposes and not to actually use it for any of those, what do you say, business outcomes or any of that, right? Most of it was to see to on day-to-day basis, well, things are running fine, it's okay, right? But they were never using the data to bring across that value from it, right? The notional reference, what you spoke about, right? Data is a new oil. Nobody realized the value of that, right? And that's where now, so when you drill back, they never kept data beyond certain duration, 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year. The larger the data, the better you apply AI modelings and all of that, better insight it provides actually for that. And that's where it actually goes one more down there. How do I enable that whole journey for you now, right? And that's where you need an enterprise data lake or that manufacturing data lake for a particular customer, right? Now, because data need to come to one place wherein you build a context to the data. And once the context is there, you can bring insights out of the data, right? And how do I do that to build a manufacturing data? Cloud is playing that big role today, right? Or the most successful manufacturing data lakes are today built on the various cloud providers, right? And the cloud is today being fed by data from the production process occurring. It could be continuous manufacturing, discrete, or the batch manufacturing, right? It also being fed by the diagnostics of the machine. It also being fed by the data from the connected workers, events, and all of these, right? And this data is being put across and maintained in such a way that we are building the context to the data, right? And the underlying part of that is, once you want to get a central system, then you realize the factory today has so many data silos, right? There are machines at one place on the factory floor. There are IT softwares like the various ERP systems and all of that. There are workers using manual activity and all of that, right? So it's when you keep going down and down, it's from the top floor to the shop floor. If you want to do a digital transformation, right? Cloud is today playing a big role. Today, as a CEO or a management committee of a factory, right, headquartered in Mumbai, Delhi, or any other location, if I were to manage my multiple plants across the region, right, and look at the information, the KPIs, and the outcomes of what's happening at the plant, cloud is the base in which today organizations are driving, right? Pre-COVID, they had a lot of notion about data security, privacy, and all that. But COVID is a game changer in that aspect where the cloud digital transformations are taking a big shape.
Monojit, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I will ask you a few questions on this topic, particularly on the enablement of data framework when we get to the Q&A. But Kiran, off to you. Your vast experience around data and everything Cariappa talked about beyond that on the leverage of that data. What's your point of view on how cloud can enable us to do that better?
Thanks, Monojit, and thanks, Cariappa, for a great note. I just want to introduce myself a little bit more over here. So I come from a company called Fivetran. I don't know how many of you know about it, but Fivetran is a startup from the Valley. It is primarily leading the data integration approach in the world and modernizing it completely. It's a cloud born, a cloud growing, and a cloud accelerating company in its true spirit, by the way. And the core mission of Fivetran is basically to make access to data as easy and as simple as electricity. Now, this pretty much aligns to the cloud and the cloud growth over here. If you look at it, it is very simple, like what Cariappa spoke about, the data silos. what you spoke about in terms of new business models evolving with digital and the COVID accelerated way of looking at it. There are a couple of trends which are coming up together over here. And I think we all are feeling that and seeing that in our daily lives also. Pretty much because of the digital revolution and COVID, which has further accelerated it like in multiples today, pretty much all of us are living our entire day of life on mobile applications or on desktop applications, from ordering food to doing financial transactions to getting into ordering travel and so on and so forth. It is going at a rapid scale. And that has led to petabytes and exabytes of growth in data. Is it a problem? It is a problem if you look at it from a size of it and scale of it. But it is also a wealth of opportunity. It's actually looking at it from an oil perspective. It is actually leading to a lot of oil production. Okay, that's a good sign. It basically means no more petroleum refineries are required and more pipelines are required to supply the oil across the businesses and across departments and across divisions. So that's the production of oil which is happening at a very rapid scale because of digital evolution. At the same time, the cloud emergence is significant the last 10 to 12 years. It is beyond imagination, because of which the cost of storage and the cost of cloud computing has come down drastically. Now, this has really helped businesses to kind of take the huge production of oil or the data, analyze it, process it, and make really meaningful impact to business out of that. Because of cloud coming together, this is possible. And companies like Fivetran are completely starting up and thriving on these cloud technologies. So I can't imagine a world today for my profession, for the data professions, and for the larger data world to even survive without cloud technologies. So that's the kind of dependence which cloud actually brings on table. It also throws a lot of challenges, by the way, which is what I think we can go deeper in the next few minutes. But primarily, the challenge of volume, the variety of data, the veracity of data, so many of things which are creating the job of a data professional much more complex. And organizations to adopt these new data practices is becoming significantly difficult at times, but also interesting, I would say. And there is more to discuss and debate on this, but my only perspective in this entire evolution is that this is the decade of data. No better time than this, and India is kind of completely at the center of this. I can never ever imagine 44 unicorns in 1 year, which happened in FY21. And in just 2.5 months of this year, we have 7 more unicorns in India. A great feeling of pride, and cloud is leading the way for that. So over to you, Monojit.
Yeah, that's such a wonderful treatise. We have 8 minutes, so I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I would appreciate if you can be short so that all of us can get opportunities. So Kiran, to your point about data and unicorns, all of this, and to a great metaphor of oil production, right? The biggest bottleneck as we see productions going up and as we see the mechanisms of doing it even enhancing day by day, the natural concern that comes in, how are we going to do and what are we going to do with so much of oil? Now, we know what we are going to do with oil, thereby the question is metaphorical, but the question is still there. The traditional way of servicing the business problems that emerge in the model, is that going to be sufficient for cloud to take care of? Or are you seeing emergence of newer business model? And being a part of a startup that's getting there, do you see this data being used maybe in some new and collaborative way, maybe a new exchange where somebody will sell and somebody will buy, or maybe even bigger, to change an organization which operates on the fabric of data as opposed to a fabric of business process? How do you see that happening?
Oh, that's a significant and it's a huge topic by itself. But I just want to talk about 3-4 key elements over here. Very recently, A16Z, Andreessen Horowitz, a VC in US, released a report called as Data 50, okay, which are the top companies in the data landscape in the world. Proud to say again, Fivetran was in the top 2 over there. But primarily, it talks about absolutely brand new modern data architecture which is coming across. And all these data cloud companies are kind of leading the way over here. The pack is leading the way over here. But this is called as MDS, or Modern Data Stack, which comprises largely, in fact, Cariappa did touch upon it in its own manner, It comprises largely of how do I store data, which is more about the data lakes and the data warehouses around that, and how cloud enables those pieces of technology in reducing the cost as well as the processing speeds around that. Second is how do I ingest, pipeline, or move data across from the sources to the targets. This is where the integration technologies are playing a bigger role. And the second layer comes over there, like organizations like Fivetran, to so many of them. Okay. The third key layer over here is all about insights and analytics. Okay, which is all around the AI ML operations or the business intelligence tools. All of those pieces comes together over here. And the fourth key layer, which is really, really emerging right now, and it is really latent right now, are all the data governance and the data regulatory tools around this, which are playing a bigger role. So if you look at it from a business consumer standpoint, as a data practitioner, the data stack has by itself make my life much more easier. Now, why is this so easy when I say talk about it? It looks complex when I talk about it, but it is actually very easy.
Cariappa, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you.
People kind of, going around it.
It has come back. Yeah, please go ahead, Kiran. I think we paused, have a paused image of you for a couple of seconds. Please carry on. Please carry on.
Yeah, no worries. But largely, the modern data stack is really helping the data professional to go live from raw data to insights within a few minutes and maybe a few hours. Collecting data from all kind of application sources to IoT to digital devices, bringing it to warehouses and applying the AI models on top of that. The time to understand data, the time to make an impact out of the data is drastically reduced. And that architecture is what is completely changing the world over here. Absolutely. The data professionals can really lead that back. And this is leading to really good emergence of business model. You can see that in fintech space purely. Yeah. Like if I have to go and apply for a loan, my loan gets disbursed within like 30 minutes of time today. It's because of this data technology behind that.
Absolutely. And that talks about propensity to take decisions, which is otherwise taken by intuition, driven by a set of facts, which is the biggest change I see in the decision process. Cariappa, on that note, you talked about manufacturing, you talked about the factory shop floor, right? Usually, in my vantage point, when I hear a client talking about this space, the space that seems to be gaining momentum is typically a predictive maintenance failure or something like that. But cloud is a lot more pervasive than that. I mean, it cannot be just a data collection mechanism and predicting something out of it as far as shop floor is concerned. It has to be as a fabric or a framework to run that entire shop floor itself. Where do you see manufacturing going with this? Because I'm afraid if the case is about predicting the next machine failure, the case is not going to last full term, definitely not beyond next 2 to 3 years, where we'll kind of cover the space. How do you see the manufacturing adopting cloud in a bigger way?
Right. So if you look at that, right, the predictive maintenance for any of those machines, equipments, and all of that, it's a space where today industries want that kind of solutions to that area. There are vendors who are providing, right, so the equipment like the boiler, chillers, and large equipments which are there, right? Even they are in need of solutions, right, to actually solve those problem statements. So if you look at it today, vendors all throughout the region, everybody are there, right? Now, they want a solution to address that final, right? What is required to solve that problem, right? So it's a combination of where the hybrid technology will come into play, wherein you have a small footprint on the edge, but the data still going on to the cloud. And for that data, you could keep having the, the models and all those AI solutions running on it and sending back the insights, right? So you will have the live monitoring happening at the site, but the AI doing at the work at the background and then giving across the insights to say something is going wrong, the health of it is not right, and all of that, right? And today, if you look at it, it's a question of operate anywhere and a very seamless way in which you bring across, right? Data is being pushed from a machine, process information is coming from somewhere, it is going to the cloud, insights being fed back to the people working there on their mobile phone or on their tablets or on their wearable devices and all of that, right? How do you bring across this seamlessness, right? If you have a particular server or a box in a particular room in a factory, right? You cannot get that connectivity to all of these systems, right? You need to connect to a ERP system. You need to connect to the people who are looking at it. You need to connect to the operator who is, working on a large factory across the acres, right? Now, how do you bring across all of these connectivity, right? Different technologies to track where he is, to track which asset he is working on, what information he needs to be spread, right? That seamless connectivity and the seamless resilience is what cloud actually helping you on that regard. Right? While there are so many technologies, right, the connectivity like the 3G, 4G, and all those coming in place, but cloud is enabling that. Yeah,
absolutely. No, I mean, gentlemen, thanks for this wonderful insights and passion. I guess we could speak for lot many more minutes. I'm afraid we are constrained by time. So I truly appreciate it and happy to connect with you, talk through and diverge on your point of view, debate, and get this great cloud journey off to a bigger momentum. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Back to you, Ivan.
Thank you so much. You're right, Monojit. This conversation on accelerating growth and business transformation with cloud requires more time, but I think you guys did a wonderful job in the 20 minutes that were allotted to you. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Kiran and Cariappa for their thoughts. And Monojit, thank you for doing a fantastic job of moderating this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd once again like to take this opportunity to thank our partners for collaborating with us at this summit. Presenting partners, Dell Technologies and Intel. Artificial intelligence partner, Knowledge Lens Private Limited. Cybersecurity partner, Process IT Global Private Limited. Associate partners, Accenture, Deloitte and Goldstone Technologies. Knowledge partner, ETH Insights. Media partner, CIO Review India. And this summit is brought to you by ET Unwired. Do visit our partner booths by simply clicking on the Experience Zone button at the bottom of your screen. Chat, speak, or video call any of them. And do come back to the live sessions again by clicking on the plenary session button at the bottom of your screen. Do stay tuned in, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back in a couple of minutes from now with a very exciting panel discussion.